Imagine if just 21 days from now you could wake up with more clarity, more energy, and more power than you've ever felt before. What if I told you that you have the ability to rewire your brain, reshape your habits, and create a life where nothing can stop you? Today, I want to show you how a simple daily routine can transform ordinary people into unstoppable forces of success, purpose, and fulfillment. Awareness is the very foundation of transformation, and without it, no real change can ever take place. Most people live their entire lives unconsciously, running on autopilot, repeating the same thoughts, speaking the same words, making the same choices, and producing the same experiences day after day. They wake up in the morning, check their phone, get caught in the same emotions of stress, worry, doubt, or even boredom, and before they realize it, their mind has been hijacked by yesterday's patterns. When you live like this, your body becomes addicted to familiar emotions, and your brain wires itself to expect the same outcomes. You feel as if life is controlling you instead of you controlling your life. Awareness is the moment you finally stop and say, wait a second, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't the life I want to keep repeating. That single recognition is powerful because the moment you observe yourself, you're no longer fully trapped in the program. You've stepped into the position of the creator instead of the prisoner. When you become aware of your negative thoughts, you begin to see how often they run unchecked in your mind. You notice how quickly one thought of doubt leads to a cascade of discouragement, or how one feeling of anger can spiral into a whole day of frustration. By simply shining the light of awareness on these patterns, you rob them of their unconscious power. Instead of being driven by them, you start to interrupt them. Imagine catching yourself mid-thought and saying, "That's the old me. That's not the story I'm choosing anymore." This shift creates space between who you've been and who you are becoming. It's in that space that transformation begins. Awareness also teaches you to observe your emotional triggers. Maybe you realize that every time you open social media, you compare yourself to others and feel unworthy. Maybe you notice that every time you face a challenge, your first response is fear instead of confidence. These realizations are not failures, they are victories. Because the moment you see the pattern, you now have a choice, and choice is power. Without awareness, you're living reactively, but with awareness, you can pause, breathe, and respond in a new way. That is how you break free from unconscious cycles and start directing your life consciously. This is why the first days of transformation are not about doing more, but about observing more. For 21 days, if you train yourself to become radically aware, aware of your thoughts, aware of your feelings, aware of your habits, you will start seeing yourself differently. You'll understand how much of your old identity was built on unconscious repetition. And with that awareness comes the realization that you don't have to keep being the same person you were yesterday. You can think new thoughts, you can feel new emotions, you can make new choices. Awareness is the spark that ignites the fire of change, and without it, nothing else will last. But with it, you hold the key to rewriting your story and stepping into the unstoppable version of yourself. Breaking the habit of being yourself means stepping away from the version of you that has been created by your past. So many of us are living in cycles where yesterday is quietly dictating today, and today is unconsciously building tomorrow to look exactly the same. When you think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and act the same way you always have, you are not creating a new future, you are simply reliving the past over and over again. You wake up in the morning and your brain immediately recalls everything you went through yesterday, the mistakes you made, the things that went wrong, the disappointments, and the stories you keep telling yourself about who you are. Without realizing it, you're programming your body to feel the same stress, the same worry, the same fear, or even the same emptiness that has been familiar to you for years. The body becomes addicted to those emotions, and you start living not by conscious choice, but by memorized habits of thought and feeling. To truly break free, you must interrupt this cycle by refusing to let your past define your identity. You are not your old failures, you are not your mistakes, you are not even the labels you've carried for years. Those are simply experiences, not your destiny. When you continue to identify with them, you trap yourself in an old personality, repeating the same story until it becomes a cage. But the moment you decide that you no longer want to keep rehearsing who you have always been, you open the door to who you can become. Breaking the habit of being yourself means daring to think thoughts you've never thought before, choosing feelings that you've never practiced before, and stepping into actions that don't align with the old familiar version of you. This process is uncomfortable at first because the body resists change. The mind tries to pull you back with thoughts like, "This isn't me," or "This will never work." That resistance is simply the old self trying to survive. But if you stay consistent, you will begin to recondition your body and mind. Instead of waking up and immediately recalling your old identity, you wake up with intention, asking yourself, "Who do I want to be today? What version of me do I want to live as?" And then you align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with that vision. Every time you interrupt an old habit and replace it with a new one, you weaken the wiring of your past self and strengthen the creation of your future self. Think about it. If you can practice being stressed, you can practice being calm. If you can practice being doubtful, you can practice being confident. If you can rehearse the story of failure, you can just as easily rehearse the story of success. Breaking the habit of being yourself is really about breaking the habit of your past. It's about no longer allowing external circumstances or old memories to dictate your internal state. Instead, you choose to live from a vision of the future. You begin to act like the person you want to become, and by doing so, you train your brain and body to believe it's already true. Over time, the new self becomes more familiar than the old one, and that is when transformation becomes permanent. The power of daily intention is one of the most underestimated forces in a person's life, yet it is the very thing that separates those who drift aimlessly from those who build a future with clarity and strength. Most people wake up and immediately get pulled into the chaos of the world. They check their phone, they scroll through messages, they worry about problems, and before they even leave their bed, their mind has already been programmed by stress, comparison, and distractions. Their day unfolds not by choice but by reaction. But when you wake up with intention, everything changes. The very first thoughts you think in the morning set the tone for your brain and your body. If you tell yourself, "Today I choose to be focused, today I choose to be calm, today I choose to be disciplined," you begin instructing your mind and body to live in alignment with those choices. You stop waiting for circumstances to decide how you feel and instead become the one directing your inner state. Intention is not just about vague wishes, it's about making a conscious declaration of who you will be today. You are essentially programming your brain to expect certain behaviors, emotions, and outcomes. Neuroscience has shown us that when you set an intention, your brain begins to filter information in alignment with that decision. If your intention is to be confident, suddenly your brain will notice opportunities to speak with courage, to stand tall, to take action where you once hesitated. If your intention is to be grateful, your brain will start picking up small details in your environment to affirm that feeling. The act of intention is like tuning your inner frequency. It determines what you attract and how you respond. Without intention, you live scattered. With intention, you live aligned. Think of your daily intention as planting a seed in the soil of your mind. Each morning, you decide what seed to plant. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and stress, then all day long, that is the crop you will harvest. But if you plant seeds of faith, confidence, and vision, then every experience becomes an opportunity for growth. And the beauty of it is, you don't need to wait for your external reality to change before you set your intention. You set the tone first, and then you watch as life begins to shape itself around the energy you carry. Daily intention also keeps you accountable to your future self. If you begin the morning asking, "Who do I want to be today?" and you clearly see yourself being disciplined, kind, focused, or powerful, then throughout the day, you have a reference point to come back to whenever you get distracted. It acts like a compass pointing you back to your true north. Without that, it's easy to get lost in the noise of daily life. But with it, you constantly realign yourself to the person you are becoming. This is not just theory, it's practice. Imagine standing in front of a mirror each morning and declaring out loud the intention of the kind of energy you will embody. Imagine writing down 3 sentences that define your day before it even begins. These practices may look simple, but over 21 days, They begin to rewire your brain and recondition your body to follow your conscious direction rather than your unconscious programming. That is how people move from being victims of circumstance to creators of destiny. They stop waiting for life to tell them who they are, and they start telling life who they will be. Intention is the bridge between your old self and your future self. Every day that you live with clarity and focus, you carve deeper neural pathways in your brain that support your growth. Over time, living intentionally becomes effortless, and you wake up each day already connected to your higher vision. That is the true power of daily intention. It takes you from drifting to designing, from reacting to creating, and from being ordinary to becoming unstoppable. Visualization and mental rehearsal are some of the most powerful tools you can ever practice because the brain does not know the difference between what you vividly imagine and what you physically experience. When you close your eyes and see yourself succeeding, thriving, speaking with confidence, walking with power, or living in the reality you desire, you are already teaching your brain and body how to live that future. Athletes have known this for decades. Champions don't just train their muscles, they train their minds. They mentally rehearse every move, every detail, every victory, until their brain has built a blueprint for success. And here's the truth: you don't need to be an athlete to use this same principle. Every single one of us can reprogram our mind and body through the act of focused visualization. Most people think visualization is daydreaming, but it's far more than that. Daydreaming is passive, visualization is active creation. When you rehearse the life you want to live, you are giving your nervous system instructions, telling it, "This is who I am becoming. This is how I will act. This is how I will feel." Over time, the body begins to memorize those instructions, and what you once imagined becomes natural to you. Think about how many times you've rehearsed negative scenarios in your mind. You imagine things going wrong, you picture yourself failing, you replay painful memories, and you feel the emotions of fear, doubt, or regret. That too is visualization, only in the wrong direction. If your brain and body are so powerful that they can produce stress hormones from an imagined problem, imagine what would happen if you trained them to produce inspiration, confidence, and determination from an imagined success. When you visualize your future with clarity and emotional intensity, you are firing new circuits in the brain. You are literally rewiring yourself to expect something greater. And when you pair that visualization with strong emotions like gratitude, excitement, or love, the signal to your subconscious becomes even stronger. Your body begins to feel as if the future has already happened, and when the body believes it, it starts aligning your behavior with that belief. That is how you naturally begin to act like the person you want to be, even before your outer reality reflects it. Mental rehearsal also prepares you for challenges. If you visualize yourself staying calm under pressure, responding to difficulties with clarity, or handling setbacks with resilience, then when those moments appear in real life, you've already practiced the response. Your brain recognizes the situation, and instead of falling back into fear or hesitation, you naturally rise into the strength you rehearsed. It is like rehearsing for a play. When the moment comes, you don't need to think, you simply step into the role you've prepared for. Take a moment to imagine yourself 21 days from now. See yourself waking up early with energy, setting your intentions, speaking words of power, taking decisive action, and ending your day with a sense of fulfillment. Don't just see it, feel it. Feel the gratitude of living as that person. Feel the joy of accomplishing what once seemed impossible. Feel the confidence of stepping into a version of yourself that is unstoppable. The stronger you connect to that image, the more your subconscious mind accepts it as truth. And once it accepts it, your outer world begins to shift to match your inner vision. The greatest achievers, the greatest leaders, the most resilient individuals are not born different. They rehearse their future until it becomes their present. They live in their vision more than they live in their history. They don't keep rehearsing who they were, they keep rehearsing who they are becoming. And if you commit yourself to practicing this daily, even just a few minutes of closing your eyes, focusing your mind, and feeling your future, you will discover that the life you've been longing for is not somewhere out there waiting. It is already within you, waiting to be called forth. Elevated emotions are the driving force of transformation, and they are the fuel that turns intention into reality. You can think all the positive thoughts in the world, you can set goals, make plans, and write affirmations, but if your emotions do not match the vision you are creating, the signal you send to your brain and body is weak. Thoughts are the language of the brain, emotions are the language of the body, and together they create the state of being that determines your future. If you wake up each morning and think of success but still feel doubt, fear, or lack, your body is contradicting your mind. That is why so many people fail to see change. They are rehearsing new thoughts while holding on to old emotions. Real transformation begins when you pair a new thought with an elevated emotion. When you think of the life you desire and simultaneously feel gratitude, joy, love, or inspiration as if it has already happened, you are sending the strongest signal possible to your subconscious. Elevated emotions shift your energy. They lift you from the heaviness of the past and move you into the frequency of possibility. Think of gratitude. It is one of the most powerful emotions you can practice daily. Gratitude trains your mind to focus not on what is missing, but on what is present and abundant. When you feel gratitude for the future before it even arrives, you are telling your body, "This is already mine." And the body begins to respond as though the event has already occurred. That state of certainty magnetizes opportunities towards you because you are no longer operating from lack, you are living from fullness. The same is true for love. When you carry love, compassion, or joy within you, you are not just influencing your inner state, you are influencing everyone around you. Your energy radiates and begins to shape the environment itself. So many people live in survival emotions like stress, anger, frustration, and fear, and they wonder why their life feels like it's on repeat. Those emotions signal danger to the body, and when the body is in survival, all it can do is prepare to protect itself. Growth, creativity, and vision cannot thrive in that state. But elevated emotions open the door to healing and possibility. They tell your body that you are safe, that you are abundant, that you are free. They unlock the higher centers of the brain, allowing you to think greater thoughts, to see greater visions, and to take greater actions. Imagine walking through your day and carrying the emotion of joy, not because something outside gave it to you, but because you chose to generate it from within. Imagine facing a challenge, but feeling empowered rather than defeated. Imagine practicing gratitude so deeply that even in moments of struggle, you see the hidden gift. This is what elevated emotions do. They shift your perspective and keep you aligned with your highest self. And the more you practice them, the more natural they become. Over 21 days, your body begins to memorize those feelings as its new baseline, and suddenly joy feels more natural than stress, gratitude feels more natural than fear, and love feels more natural than anger. This is not pretending or ignoring reality. It is training yourself to respond differently to reality. It is teaching your body and mind that no matter what happens outside, you have the power to choose your inner state. When you live from elevated emotions, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become a creator of circumstance. You are no longer waiting for life to give you reasons to feel good. You are generating reasons within yourself. And that energy is unstoppable because the world cannot take away what you have created from within. Consistency is the secret ingredient that turns temporary effort into lasting transformation. And it is the discipline that rewires your brain and body into a new way of being. So many people get excited when they hear about change. They feel motivated for a few days, maybe even a week, and then they stop. They return to their old habits, their old excuses, their old emotions, and then they convince themselves that change doesn't work. But the truth is, change always works. It is people who give up before the process is complete. Your brain is like a muscle, and just like you cannot build strength by going to the gym once or twice, you cannot rewire your mind and body with an occasional practice. It is the daily repetition, the steady commitment, the consistent showing up that tells your nervous system, "This is who I am now." Every time you repeat a new thought, a new behavior, or a new emotion, you are firing neural circuits in your brain. The more often you fire them, the stronger they become until they eventually become automatic. At the same time, every time you resist falling into your old habits, you are weakening the circuits of your past self. Consistency is literally the process of unlearning who you were and teaching your body who you want to become. Think about a musician who practices daily. Their fingers eventually know the notes without thinking. Think about an athlete who trains every day. Their body memorizes the movements until they become second nature. In the same way, when you practice gratitude, confidence, focus, or discipline every day, your brain and body memorize those states until they feel more natural than your old patterns. But here's the challenge the body will resist in the beginning. It will crave the familiar feelings of stress, fear, doubt, or laziness, because that is what it has been conditioned to expect. Consistency is about pushing through that resistance long enough for the new self to take root. This is why 21 days is so powerful. It's long enough to disrupt the old identity and begin solidifying the new one. In the first week, you may feel the pull of your old habits. In the second week, you start to notice new patterns forming. By the third week, your body begins to accept the new version of you as familiar, and that is when change becomes real. Consistency is not about perfection, it is about persistence. There will be days when you don't feel like practicing, when your mind is noisy, when your emotions are heavy. But those are the days that matter most, because showing up in the midst of resistance is what strengthens the new identity. You are teaching your body that your commitment is greater than your mood, that your vision is greater than your excuses. And over time, those little victories add up into massive transformation. Imagine yourself 21 days from now, looking back at the version of you who decided to stay consistent. You would not just see progress, you would feel like a different person. You would think differently, act differently, and carry yourself differently, because consistency has rewired your system. That is the gift of discipline. It takes what feels hard at first and makes it effortless over time. So do not underestimate the power of showing up every single day. Even if it's only for a few minutes, even if you don't feel like it, even if it doesn't look perfect, stay consistent. Because the life you dream of is not built by what you do once in a while, it is built by what you do repeatedly until it becomes who you are. Consistency is what transforms possibility into reality, and it is the mark of every unstoppable person. Meditation and mindfulness are not just spiritual practices, they are powerful tools to break free from the chains of stress, distraction, and unconscious living. Most people spend their days trapped in a cycle of constant thinking, endless worrying, and reacting to whatever comes their way. Their minds are noisy, their emotions are restless, and their bodies are addicted to stress hormones. They wake up and immediately dive into their to-do lists, their phones, their problems, and before the day has even truly started, they are already drained. Meditation and mindfulness are the practices that interrupt that cycle. They are the moments when you stop running, stop reacting, and choose to step into stillness. And in that stillness, your brain and body find balance again. When you sit in meditation, you are teaching yourself to detach from the constant stream of thoughts that usually control you. You learn to become the observer rather than the prisoner of your mind. Instead of chasing every worry or reliving every memory, you breathe, you center yourself, and you remind your body that it is safe to rest. This is not about emptying your mind of all thought. It is about quieting the noise enough to notice what is really going on within you. With mindfulness, you bring awareness to each moment. You notice how your body feels, you pay attention to your breath, you become aware of your surroundings. Suddenly, you are not lost in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears. You are here, fully present in the now. Science has proven that meditation lowers stress, balances brain chemistry, and even strengthens the immune system. But beyond the science, it gives you something far more valuable: control over your inner state. When you practice daily meditation, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You can meet a stressful situation with calm because you have trained your nervous system to find stillness. You can face uncertainty with clarity because you have learned how to silence the mental noise and connect to deeper wisdom. Every minute spent in meditation is like sharpening the tools of your mind, preparing you to respond to life with strength instead of reaction. Mindfulness extends this practice into your daily life. It is not only about sitting quietly with closed eyes, it is about carrying awareness into every action. It means eating with presence, walking with awareness, listening deeply when someone speaks, and noticing your emotions without judgment. When you live mindfully, you no longer sleepwalk through life, You live deliberately. You notice how often your old habits try to pull you back. And in that moment of noticing, you reclaim your power to choose differently. Over 21 days of meditation and mindfulness, you begin to notice a shift. The racing thoughts quiet down, your emotional triggers lose their grip, and you start to feel lighter. Your mornings begin with peace instead of chaos, your evenings close with gratitude instead of worry, and throughout the day, you find yourself more focused, more centered, more in control. Meditation trains the mind, and mindfulness anchors the lessons into daily living. Together, they create the foundation for lasting transformation. Imagine sitting in silence each day and connecting to the version of yourself you want to become. You see that future clearly, and in meditation, you feel it as if it is already real. Your body begins to memorize that feeling of peace, that state of empowerment, until it becomes your natural way of being. And then imagine walking through your life with mindfulness, catching yourself when stress tries to rise, breathing instead of reacting, choosing love instead of anger, gratitude instead of fear. That combination creates a person who is not tossed around by the storms of life, but one who moves through them with calm, with clarity, and with unshakable strength. Meditation and mindfulness are not escapes from life. They are the training ground for life. They prepare you to live consciously, intentionally, and powerfully. They remind you that no matter what happens around you, you have the ability to create peace within you. And once you master that, you become unstoppable because nothing outside of you has the power to control you anymore. Environment is one of the most powerful influences on human behavior, yet most people underestimate just how much it shapes who they become. You may have the strongest intentions, the most inspiring vision, and the clearest goals, but if your environment is constantly pulling you back into old patterns, eventually it will win. Your surroundings are not neutral. They are either feeding your growth or feeding your stagnation. Think about it: the people you spend the most time with, the conversations you engage in, the spaces you live and work in, and even the information you consume are all silently programming your identity. If you surround yourself with negativity, gossip, doubt, and mediocrity, it is only a matter of time before you begin to reflect those same qualities. But if you intentionally design an environment filled with positivity, encouragement, growth, and inspiration, you cannot help but rise into that energy. Your brain is constantly scanning the world around you, taking cues on how to behave and who to be. This is why being around people who embody confidence, discipline, or success inspires you to raise your standards, while being around people who complain, procrastinate, or settle for less makes it easier for you to lower yours. Energy is contagious. If you want to change your life, you must carefully curate who and what you allow into your mental and emotional space. Ask yourself, do the people around me pull me forward or hold me back? Do my daily environments remind me of who I am becoming, or do they constantly drag me back to who I used to be? Changing your environment doesn't always mean leaving everything behind or cutting everyone off, but it does mean becoming intentional. It means spending less time in places that trigger old habits and more time in spaces that support new ones. It means seeking out conversations that expand your mind instead of shrink it. It means filling your home and workspace with reminders of your vision, whether it's books that inspire you, quotes that uplift you, or even music that elevates your energy. Every detail of your environment is either reinforcing the old identity or helping to build the new one. Even digital environments matter. The content you watch, the accounts you follow, the news you consume, all of it shapes your emotions and thoughts. If your digital environment is full of fear, comparison, or distractions, your mind will absorb those patterns. But if you feed your digital space with wisdom, motivation, and learning, then every time you pick up your phone, you are reinforcing growth instead of decay. You are always under the influence of something. The only question is whether that influence is chosen or unconscious. Over time, your environment becomes a mirror of your inner world. If you live in clutter, chaos, or disorder, it reflects and reinforces a scattered mind. But when you choose to create order, beauty, and inspiration around you, your inner world begins to match it. That is why even simple actions like cleaning your space, organizing your desk, or creating a morning corner for reflection can dramatically shift your mindset. You are telling your subconscious that you are serious about your growth, that you are living with intention, that you are no longer accepting environments that keep you small. When you commit to transformation for 21 days, it is not only about what you do internally, but also about what you set up externally. Your environment becomes the silent partner in your change. Imagine spending 3 weeks consistently surrounding yourself with voices of wisdom, people who encourage you, and spaces that remind you of your vision. By the end of those 21 days, you would feel like a completely different person, not just because of your inner work, but because your outer world now matches it. Environment is not just where you live, it is what you allow to live inside and around you. Choose it wisely because it is always shaping you. If you want to become unstoppable, build an environment that reflects the unstoppable version of yourself and watch how quickly you rise into it. Taking small daily actions may sound simple, even ordinary, but it is the very essence of building an extraordinary life. Too often, people become paralyzed by the magnitude of their goals. They dream of transforming their health, their relationships, their finances, or their character, but the vision feels so big that they don't know where to begin. And when they don't know where to begin, they end up doing nothing at all. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect energy, and while they wait, days, months, and years pass without change. What they don't realize is that transformation is never built in giant leaps. It is built in small, deliberate, consistent steps that compound over time. Every major achievement, every unstoppable person you admire, every transformation story you've ever heard began with someone doing something small each day. It could be writing 1 page a day that eventually became a book. It could be walking 10 minutes a day that eventually became a healthy lifestyle. It could be speaking 1 sentence of courage that eventually became confidence. Small actions may not look powerful in the moment, but they are the bricks that build the foundation of greatness. Without them, your dreams remain castles in the air. With them, your dreams slowly take form and become real. The secret is not intensity, but consistency. Anyone can make a huge effort for a short time, but true change belongs to the one who shows up every single day. Even if it's just for a few minutes, even if the progress feels invisible at first, what matters is that you keep moving forward. The brain loves repetition. It learns through repeated action. Every time you choose the small step that aligns with your vision, you strengthen the identity of the person you want to become. You are telling yourself, "This is who I am now," and that message, repeated daily, becomes a powerful force of transformation. The beauty of small daily actions is that they bypass the excuses of the mind. Your mind may resist when it thinks of the big, overwhelming task, but it cannot resist something small and doable. When you focus on the little actions, you begin to build momentum, and momentum is what makes the big goals possible. One small act of discipline today makes tomorrow easier. One small act of courage today builds strength for bigger challenges. One small step forward creates proof that change is happening, even when it feels slow. Over 21 days, small daily actions accumulate into something remarkable. If you choose one action that aligns with your vision and you repeat it every day for 3 weeks, you will begin to feel the shift in your identity. At first, it feels like you are simply practicing a habit. By the second week, it feels like part of your daily rhythm. By the third week, it begins to feel like it belongs to you, like it is no longer something you are doing, but something you are becoming. That is the power of repetition. It transforms an action into identity. Do not underestimate the power of the small. Big doors swing on small hinges, and great transformations are built on simple daily choices. Drinking more water, reading for 10 minutes, practicing gratitude, journaling your thoughts, exercising briefly, visualizing your future. None of these may feel like they change your life in one day. But over 21 days, 90 days, a year, they completely rewrite the trajectory of who you are. Small steps compound, and compounding is the most powerful force of growth. So when your mind tries to tell you that the small actions don't matter, remember that they are the only thing that ever has. Every great life is nothing more than small actions repeated with the devotion. Take them seriously, commit to them daily, and trust that those little steps will eventually carry you into a life that looks unstoppable. Celebrating progress is one of the most overlooked yet most powerful practices in creating a transformed life. Too often, people are so fixated on the destination that they fail to honor the journey. They measure their success only by whether they have achieved the big goal, forgetting that every small victory along the way is proof that transformation is already happening. When you ignore your progress, you starve your motivation. When you celebrate it, you fuel your spirit and create momentum that carries you forward with strength and joy. Think about how the brain works. It is wired to respond to rewards. Every time you recognize and honor a small success, you release dopamine, the brain's natural motivator, which reinforces the behavior and makes you more likely to repeat it. In simple words, celebrating progress tells your brain, this matters, this is working, keep going. And that message builds a cycle of growth that becomes unstoppable. But if you only focus on how far you still have to go, you send yourself the opposite message, that nothing you are doing is enough, that your effort doesn't matter, and that the gap is too wide to cross. That mindset drains your energy and keeps you stuck. Celebrating progress doesn't mean you've reached the finish line. It means you are acknowledging that you're no longer at the starting line. It means you are different today than you were yesterday, and that difference deserves recognition. Maybe you meditated for 5 minutes when before you never did. Maybe you chose to respond with patience instead of anger in a situation that would normally trigger you. Maybe you journaled, exercised, spoke kindly to yourself, or resisted a habit that no longer serves you. These may feel small, but they are not. They are evidence that your identity is shifting, and that is the real work of transformation. When you celebrate, you rewire your relationship with growth. Instead of associating discipline with pain and sacrifice, you begin to associate it with joy and reward. This changes everything because now your body and mind look forward to practicing the new behavior. You are no longer dragging yourself forward out of obligation. You are pulled forward by the satisfaction of becoming more aligned with the person you want to be. And the more you celebrate, the more you begin to see progress everywhere. You stop dismissing your wins as insignificant and start realizing that they are the seeds of your future success. Celebrating progress also teaches you gratitude. It shifts your attention away from what you lack and onto what you have already gained. Gratitude expands your awareness and allows you to see blessings and opportunities that you might otherwise overlook. When you practice gratitude for your growth, you stop comparing yourself to others and begin appreciating your unique journey. This not only makes you more resilient, but also makes the process of transformation enjoyable rather than burdensome. After all, if you cannot celebrate yourself along the way, even reaching the end goal will feel empty. Over 21 days, if you make it a habit to celebrate progress daily, you will create a feedback loop of success. Imagine writing down one thing every evening that you did well that day, no matter how small. Over 3 weeks, you will have a record of 21 victories. This list becomes undeniable proof that you are changing, even if the change feels subtle. On days when doubt creeps in, you can look back at those victories and remind yourself that progress is real, that growth is happening, and that you are on the right path. Celebration doesn't have to be grand or material. It can be as simple as taking a moment to breathe deeply and acknowledge yourself, speaking words of encouragement over your life, smiling at your effort, or sharing your success with someone you trust. What matters is not how you celebrate, but that you celebrate. Each acknowledgement adds weight to your new identity and convinces your mind and body that transformation is not just possible, it is already underway. The truth is, the journey of transformation is long, and without celebration, it can feel exhausting. But when you infuse joy, gratitude, and acknowledgement into the process, you build stamina to keep going. You stop waiting for the big win, to feel proud of yourself, and begin living in pride and purpose every single day. And when you can live in that state of gratitude and recognition, you no longer see growth as a heavy climb, you see it as a rewarding adventure. Celebrating progress is not just a nice idea, it is the key to sustaining change. When you honor each step, you remind yourself that you are not striving in vain. You are creating a new story for your life, brick by brick, step by step, day by day. And when you finally look back months or years from now, you will realize that it was the little celebrations, the little acknowledgments that gave you the strength to become unstoppable. There comes a moment in every journey of transformation when you must make the decision to never return to the old version of yourself. This is what it means to embrace a new identity. It is not just about changing habits on the surface, it is about becoming someone who cannot even imagine going back to the patterns that once kept you stuck. When you truly embrace a new identity, the old self no longer feels like home, it feels like a memory of someone you used to know. And the reason so many people fail to sustain change is because they try to mix the new self with the old self. They take a few steps forward, but they keep the door open to their past, and the moment life gets challenging, they slip back into what is familiar. Real transformation requires closing that door once and for all and choosing to live only as the person you are becoming. Think of your identity as the root of a tree. Every action, thought, and behavior you produce grows from that root. If your root is still tied to the old identity, the one that says you are unworthy, that you are limited, that you are destined to repeat your failures, then even if you try to grow new branches, they will eventually be choked out by the old root. But if you plant a new root, if you decide deep within yourself that you are no longer the same person you were yesterday, then everything that grows from that root is different. Your thoughts shift, your emotions shift, your actions shift, and suddenly the fruit of your life begins to look completely new. Embracing a new identity is not about faking it or pretending. It is about consciously rehearsing who you want to be until it becomes natural. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Your body resists because it has been conditioned to live in the energy of the past. Your mind doubts because it has memorized the story of your limitations. But when you persist, when you continue to think, feel, and act like the person you want to become, you are literally reprogramming your brain and body. And one day the rehearsal becomes reality. You no longer have to try to be confident, you are confidence. You no longer have to force discipline, you are discipline. You no longer strive to be free from the past, you are free. This is why visualization, meditation, and intentional practice are so powerful. They allow you to step into that new self before the external evidence shows up. When you close your eyes and feel the emotions of your future identity as if it is happening now, you are teaching your brain and body to live in that reality. And the more familiar you become with that state, the more unnatural it feels to return to the old one. That is how the shift becomes permanent. You no longer feel at home in who you used to be. You only feel at home in who you are becoming. Over time, your environment will begin to reflect this new identity back to you. People will notice that you carry yourself differently. Opportunities will show up that match your new energy. Old habits and old relationships that no longer align will begin to fade, not because you are forcing them out, but because they no longer resonate with the person you are now. This is not about rejection, it is about resonance. You are simply attracting a reality that matches the new identity you have embraced. The danger is in trying to hold on to the old while reaching for the new. If you keep one foot in both worlds, you will always feel torn, exhausted, and unfulfilled. But the moment you fully commit, when you say to yourself, I am no longer that person, I am this person now, everything changes. Commitment is the bridge between who you were and who you are destined to be. It is a declaration to your subconscious, to your body, and to the universe that you will not go back. Embracing a new identity also means giving yourself permission to let go of guilt, shame, or regret for who you used to be. You did the best you could with the awareness you had at that time. But now you are awake, and now you are choosing differently. You honor the past by using it as a teacher, not as a prison. And as you embrace the new you, you inspire others to believe that they can too. Because nothing is more powerful than someone who has truly transformed, not just in words, not just in habits, but in essence. The old self was a survival mechanism. The new self is a creation. When you live in that creation every day, you step into freedom, power, and purpose. You begin to write a new story, one that is not dictated by your past, but created by your vision. And once you taste the joy of that new identity, you will never want to go back, because the old you cannot survive in the world you are building now.